Have you ever made a hashtag for a series you're doing or a collaboration you want people to jump on board with? Or have you joined somebody else's collaboration where they are searchable by their hashtag? Well, today I have another one, and I have several in my back pocket to both keep me on track with some things that I want to remember to bring to my YouTube channel, and also to engage the community. I love to learn more about each of you in our creative, crafty community of junk journalers, paper crafters, mixed media makers, and I hope that this new hashtag will help you to jump in and participate. Hi, I'm Carol from Crinkled Path Journals, and the new hashtag is toptenthentag. I would love for you to list your 10 favorites in any art craft category and tag 10 creators, at least 10, you can do more, to do the same. I'll be tagging some of my crafty friends at the end of this video, but my top 10 then tag video today is illustrators of children. Now, as junk journalers, we love to have illustrations, photos, old patterns, images, and my favorite are children illustrations. So I thought today I would introduce you to 10 of my favorite. So I hope you're in for hanging out with me for a little bit as I'm going to be talking about them and showing you their illustrations. These 10 illustrators I am presenting in alphabetical order because I can't pick a favorite. The first is Stephen Cartwright. He's known for these plain-faced little illustrations of children and families and all kinds of stuff. He was born in 1947 and passed in 2004. He was a British illustrator, and in 1979, he started illustrating for Usborne Books. Yes, Usborne. I didn't know how to say that. I had to look it up. This book, the first 100 words, was translated into 55 languages, and he's famous for Quacky the Duck that started showing up in all of his pictures after this book, and often becomes the game of where's Quacky in every picture. I think his stuff is really adorable. At the pool. These were some of my children's favorites. His animals are pretty cute too, but we're talking about children today. Okay, that's Stephen Cartwright. Next we have Pelagie Doan. Pelagie was named Pelagie because there was always a Pelagie in every generation. So she was named after her mother. And at some point later in her life, I believe she went by Dorothy as well. She was an American illustrator in the 1930s to the 1960s, and she lived from 1906 to 1966. She was famous for her children's Christian themes, and she did many others. She was known for this dark outline filled in with pastels. She also illustrated a mystery series called the Judy Bolton Mysteries. I don't own any of those. Her children are absolutely whimsical, light, and airy. And here's another book that she illustrated the children in. Aren't they so sweet? Okay, that's Pelagie Stone. Next, we have Gayo Fujikawa. She also is an American illustrator and writer, and she created more than 50 books. And she was one of the first to include many children of different races in her work. Way to go, Gayo. She was named after a famous emperor in Japan that her father admired, and she thought it was kind of funny that her dad gave her a masculine name. I absolutely adore her little simple-faced children. She was born in 1908 and she passed away in 1998. She lived in New York during the time that Japanese people were being interned in internment camps. And while her family was in an internment camp in California, she was not put in an internment camp when she lived in New York. Some of the sweetest little faces that you will see. That's Gayo Fujikawa. Next we have Denise Holly Hobby, best known for her American greeting characters that were originally unnamed. Let me show you the main one that most people know of when I come across it here. I was a huge fan of Holly Hobby characters in the 70s and early 80s. Oh, where are you, Holly? We are going to find you. There she is. This was one of the most well-known Holly Hobby characters, which originally was unnamed and then eventually named after her. She went on to write other children's book series, currently the Toot and Puddle Little Pigs and Elmore and Pinky characters, which are a porcupine and a skunk. But since we're talking about children today, I am showing you her original first works, which were children and some small animals. I love the motion that she captured in this picture. If you have ever met a goose that didn't want you there, you know what that was like. That's Holly Hobby. Next, we have a duo, sisters Florence and Margaret Hoops. And they were very secretive about who drew what. I thought that was really interesting. They shared all the credit, and their style really reminds me of Pelagie Stone, doesn't it? Those ladies were born in 1895. That's Florence. In 1893, that was Margaret. Florence lived to 1984 and Margaret to 1953. They are famous for illustrating the Alice and Jerry readers. Now, they illustrated the earlier versions, and sometimes the later versions have a different illustrator. So if you're looking for their illustrations, make sure that when you're purchasing books online, you go somewhere like eBay where people photograph the images in their description of what you are purchasing, so that you can see that you're actually getting the ones illustrated by them, or look for their name in the illustrations. Oh my goodness, I just love the Alice and Jerry books. Now, these two ladies, they lived in Philadelphia and never married, and they often sketched their neighbors in Philadelphia for their books. Susan Baribeau in 2008 was a library literary collector's curator, and she came across a listing for 25 of their sketchbooks for sale after they had passed away. And later in 2012, she found another collection of their works, and so she was able to put them into a Women of Fine Art collection through the libraries. I'm so glad that she got their work and was able to save it. It makes me think of us looking for old antiquities to include in our artwork and preserving it. That was Florence and Margaret Hoops. Next, we have the illustrator for Happy Day, Catherine Hutton. Very little biographical information is available about her in public record, but she did these adorable children with a very vintage aesthetic in the 80s and 90s. And she specifically illustrated for the Christian Happy Day books, which were a Christian equivalent to a golden book that had the silver spines. They all have these big eyes, and I think they're so cute. That's Catherine Hutton. Now we're going to go to another gentleman on the list, which is Ezra Jack Keats, originally named Jacob Ezra Katz. He was born and lived in New York City, and he won the 1963 Caldecott Medal for his Snowy Day book that he wrote in 1963. He based this character, Peter, who's in a lot of his books, off of a picture that he cut out of a little boy from a Life magazine. And then the scenery obviously comes from his city of New York experiences growing up and living there his whole life. I think the style of this, very mixed media, very collagey, is absolutely gorgeous. And Peter is so adorable, and I can't resist Willie either. Oh, look at those sweet cheeks. Ezra Jack Keats was born in 1916 and passed in 1983. Now, Ezra wrote much about minority children, and he pioneered bilingual books. Yay, Ezra Jack Keats. Thank you. Number 8 is Tasha Tudor. She was born in 1915 and passed in 2008. She was an American illustrator and author who followed an early American 1830s New England lifestyle. She believed in the pleasure of simple living. She published over 100 books on farming, nature in New England, and so many children's books. And she had 4 children of her own, and I often wonder, when I look at the faces of the children that she draws in her books, if they look like her own children. But one of my most favorite books to look for her illustrations is actually a cookbook. It is the Betty Crocker's Kitchen Gardens. And it is a cookbook about growing your own garden and then being able to cook with it. So there's illustrations of gardens. She has a self-portrait here, but there are the most adorable children's illustrations in this book. And these are some of my most favorite of anything that she has drawn. And this book is getting harder and harder to find, sort of like the Edith Holden books, who have gotten really expensive to purchase online. Oops. Aren't they just so precious? She had cats and corgis in her life, and so they do make frequent appearances in her artwork as well. Lots of veggies in this book too. And as a gardener and a lover of all things children illustrated, this is a joy to have in my collection. And there are recipes in this book. There's a corgi again. That's Tasha Tudor. All right, she might be known as the greatest of all times to me. Eloise Wilkins. She was born in 1904 and passed in 1987, and she is best known for illustrating 47 little golden books. And who can resist her adorable children? If you search online, you can find a list of her 47 little golden books that she illustrated. Jane Werner Watson was an editor and writer of hundreds of little golden books, and she called her the soul of the little golden books. And I think she was right, because when I think of little golden books, this is the illustrator I think of most and collect the most. She also illustrated paper dolls, and she often illustrated her sister Esther Wilkins' books. So you can be on a lookout for those as well. That's Eloise Wilkins. And I do have many, many more of her books, but I couldn't bring them all or we'd be here all day. Last on my list is someone who was much more famous for something other than her children's illustrations, which is Dagmar Searchinger Wilson. She was an American raised in Europe, and while she illustrated for Whitman books later in her life, and I absolutely get the biggest nostalgic feelings from seeing her characters and illustrated children, especially these. Look, because this was my book, and it is torn and stained, and I probably read it 1,000 times between the time I was 2 years old and 7 years old. I did a whole memory keeping page about this particular activity. And so I can try and link that video in the description box below and at the end of this video. Now, Dagmar was an illustrator, as you can see, but she was best known for being a mother of 3 and an anti-nuclear activist. She and some other mother friends started a phone line, and formed Women Strike for Peace. And John F. Kennedy gave her partial credit for the successful signing of the Nuclear Test Ban Treaty during his presidency. That's Dagmar Wilson. So that's my top 10 illustrators of children. I'm glad you took the time to listen to me today. Now let's think about some people that I want to tag, some crafty friends of mine. I'm going to tag Paper Confessions with Karamia, Creating with Jovi, Kim's Inspired Life, Carrie the Paper Monkey, Tattered Tammy, Tracy Hines, aka Nanner Bananer, Jennifer at Scrapbooks and Memories, Jen at Jen's Junk, Possum Patty, Amber at Thrifty Journal Shop, and my 3 cohorts who will be having a big weekend as we launch our retreat announcement on Saturday, February 21st, and have a Bible journaling live midday on Sunday, the 22nd. And you can find all the information about those things in my community posts. Angela the Traveling Crafter, Hazel Anaka Design, and Jonna the Preppy Crafty Girl. Yes, I named more than 10, but you don't have to wait to be tagged. Anyone can use the hashtag toptenthentag. Give us your list of 10 of your favorites in any art craft category, and then tag 10 other creators to do the same. It could be your top 10 washi tapes or your top 10 glues, or it could be the top 10 ways you like to bind a book. It could be the top 10 magazines you like to cut things out of. It could be the top 10 paint techniques you like to use. The possibilities are endless, and that's where I think your creativity is sparked. I have been doing another hashtag called ephemory. And these books today are really a reflection of that hashtag as well for me. These are pieces of ephemera. Books, yeah, they last a lifetime, but often weren't intended to last longer than that. The memories that they create when you read and see those images and then see them again is such a treasure. And the ephemera that creates that special memory is so important to me, and a big reason why I got into junk journaling and crafting with old ephemera. So I hope that you will either jump in right off the bat and name some other people, or if I tagged you, I hope you will accept the challenge and give me your top 10 of whatever you choose. Thanks for including me as creator of this hashtag in your posts so that I can see them and add you to a playlist. I hope you have a wonderful weekend ahead and that you come and join us for our activities over the weekend. All right, take care. Bye-bye.